Hello friends, and today we shall discuss a chapter from CBSE Class 12, book Flamingo. The title of the chapter is The Interview, and the first part of the chapter we will discuss here today, written by Christopher Silvester. Before we proceed, let us first of all discuss what is an interview. Interview, as you all know, is the most commonplace technique of asking questions and getting information. It has become a commonplace of journalism. In the chapter, in the first part here, you will see the writer telling us about different opinions and the functions, methods, and merits of interview in the chapter. So, before we proceed, let us first of all talk about the writer. The writer Christopher Silvester was a student of history at Peterhouse, Cambridge. He was a reporter for Private Eye for 10 years and has written features for Vanity Fairs. So he was a journalist, by the way. Following the chapter that we are reading here, it is an excerpt, a part taken from his introduction to the Penguin Books of Interviews, which is an anthology from 1859 to the present day. Okay, so while you will read the chapter, you will encounter a few vocabulary which I think you should know, like commonplace means most usual, and usage is also given here, like computers are now commonplace in primary classrooms. There is another word that you will encounter when you will read the text, extravagant. I hope you know the answer. Exaggerated, alright? Usage, residents should not be extravagant with water in view of low rainfall. There is another word, intrusion, interference. Intrusion of the chairperson solved the matter among the members. Primitive, very simple, old-fashioned. The usage in the sentence, the facilities provided by hotel clerk in Jaipur were primitive by today's standards. Then diminishes means to belittle. Now, let's talk about the chapter here. As I told you, the chapter talks about, or the writer talks in this chapter about the interview being the most commonplace of journalism. His opinions on the functions, methods, and merits of interview vary considerably. People give different opinions about the use and impact of interview. Some claims it to be the highest form, a source of truth, and in its practice an art. Some, on the other way around, or on the other hand, dislike interview as an unwanted intrusion into lives which diminishes their personality. Here, let's see some of the positive view which the writer has written in the chapter. It is said, or it is written, interviews are the most supremely serviceable medium of communication to get to know about something. It is immensely popular journalistic style. In journalism, it's the most important style of acquiring information. The most important means of getting impressions of our contemporaries. It is through interviews that we get to know about contemporaries, the writer, actors, and well-known personalities. Celebrities, they claim interview in the highest form, a source of truth in its practice. They call it an art. Interviewers hold a position of an extraordinary power or influence. This is another point that you will see, that the interviewer, not the interviewee, holds a position of extraordinary power and influence because he is the person who asks the question. Alright, let's see. There are also some negative views of interviews, like some of the writers you will see here in the chapter, quite a few writers like H.G. Wells, V.S. Naipaul, Lewis Carroll, Rudyard Kipling, Saul Bellow, all of them, are giving negative opinion of interviews. For them, it's a kind of needless invasion. It somehow diminishes the person. So let's talk one by one what the writers talk about interview. V.S. Naipaul, who is a cosmopolitan writer, feels wounded and loses a part of himself. So it's a negative thing for him. Alright, Lewis Carroll, creator of Alice in Wonderland, hates being interviewed. He never consented to be interviewed, for he believed it to be just something kind of a horror of the interviewer. Alright, Rudyard Kipling, who is the writer of Jungle Book, considers it immoral and a crime to be interviewed. Okay, he also thinks it's an assault that merits punishment. Alright, H.G. Wells, a well-known writer of a novel like The Invisible Man, he tells that, let me tell you about this man, H.G. Wells, before we proceed. Okay, H.G. Wells, an English novelist, journalist, sociologist, and historian. He is known for his works of science fiction. Wells' best-known books are The Time Machine, Invisible Man, and The War of the Worlds. So he is a great writer, H.G. Wells. He referred to be interviewed to be an ordeal, okay, a task he thinks it to be. There is another writer like Saul Bellow, who is a playwright as well as a novelist. Right, most of his works were influenced widely by World War II. Among his most famous characters are Augie, Marge, and Moses. He published short stories also, translated from Yiddish. He won the Nobel Prize, let me tell you, Saul Bellow won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1976. He also thinks or describes interview to be kind of a thumbprint on his windpipe. Now these are the negative views which are described here by the writer. Okay, in spite of all these things, in spite of all the drawbacks that interview has, it is a supremely serviceable medium of communication, as it is already written. Interviews are the most vivid impression of our contemporary. We get to know about the contemporaries from interviews, and they hold a position of unprecedented power and influence. So that's the interviewer. So mostly, different kind of opinions are described here in the chapter, in the first part of the chapter. Let's talk about a few questions that you may encounter in the examination. How do you know of the growing popularity of the interview as a form of journalism? Answer: as it is written, everybody who is literate will have read an interview, and also several thousand celebrities have been interviewed to date. How has the popularity of the interview affected its form? Functions, methods, merits of interview vary considerably. Hence, there is no uniform pattern of interview. What are the different views that people hold about interviews as a technique? Some claim that it's a source of truth in an art, as I told you. But on the other hand, there are some others, like the writers, the names that I told you, like Lewis Carroll, V.S. Naipaul, Rudyard Kipling, H.G. Wells, and Saul Bellow. They despise it as an intrusion in their life. Who is our chief source of information in today's world about personalities? Interviewer, who gets the information directly from the horse's mouth, that is from the interviewee, from the well-known celebrities. He is the chief source of information. Now, a few more questions for you. What are some of the positive views on interview? All right. Some positive views, like as we have already discussed, it's supremely serviceable medium of communication. It provides a vivid impression of our contemporaries. It equips one with the things related to life and progress. Why do most celebrities writers despise being interviewed? Again, most celebrity writers doesn't like being interviewed, as they consider it's an undesirable intrusion into their personal lives. Some viewed it as an immoral and offensive activity. Some others feel it would diminish them. Now, these are a few questions. Thank you very much. That's the end of the session. Wish you all the best.